So this is technically the first transfer window review sort of thing that I've put on this channel since I joined YouTube. But I wanted to talk a bit about Sunderland's transfer business and whether I think we've actually done enough to try and give ourselves the best possible chance of staying up, practically. I'm gonna as I'm recording this, transfer deadline day just recently finished. It was about 24 minutes ago, to be accurate, or 25 minutes ago since it finished, or officially closed, according to Sky Sports. Jim White with his beautiful yellow tie, but anyway, I'm getting off the point. I'm not going to lie, as a deadline day, I was very disappointed. I did think that it was good to get rid of a couple of players who you could argue were dead wood, who didn't really contribute very much to the team, which to be honest is about 9/10 of our squad. But at the same time, we should have really, I think we could have tried a bit harder to get somebody in over the line, personally. Bearing in mind, that's just from an outsider's point of view. I don't know what happens with the financial goings on at the club, etc., and blah, blah, blah. But I'm going to go through the ins and outs of what we've done in this window and just give you my brief opinion on them and see what you think in the comments below. So, okay, I'm going to start with the players going out, and then we'll talk about the players coming in. So first of all, we have Liam Bridcut going to Leeds on loan. I feel a little bit sorry for Bridcut in some ways, because in a couple of times he did play, he looked relatively, but he looked kind of, okay on the ball. He didn't do any of the silly stuff, but he just never looked comfortable in the Premier League. And I think if we went down, if we went down and he came back from Leeds, I'd probably keep him, because in the Championship he'd probably do really well. But unfortunately, that's his level, and we can't afford players who are Championship players in the Premier League. Fair enough, if we went down to the Championship, then yes, then he probably will be a decent player there. But we can't have him if we're going to be in the Premier League. Simple as that. Next one, Will Buckley. Another one I kind of felt sorry for, because when I watched his debut against Manchester United, he actually looked quite threatening. And considering that you're giving Manchester United's defence, I know that it wasn't very good at the time, but if you're going to give Man United's defence problems, you've got something about you. You don't do that by flukiness. Unfortunately, as it turns out, he just isn't good enough. So that's another prospect gone there. Charas Mavrias, again on loan to Fortuna Dusseldorf, and I think I've pronounced that wrong, so correct me if there's any fans who know that correct pronunciation of that club. I do feel sorry again for Mavrias, because he wasn't really given much of a chance, but I don't think it helped him that he was brought in under the Defanti debacle, because he's now got that billing as one of those 14 signings that, with a couple of rare exceptions like Key and Barini and Minone and Giaccherini, for me anyway, the rest of them didn't work. So, I do feel a bit sorry for Mavrias in that respect. But I do think it was right for him to move on. And as his contract's up at the end of the season, if I remember correctly, then that's pretty much him at Sunderland finished. Costel Pantilimon. This is an interesting one, because you figured with Jordan Pickford coming back from Preston that it was going to either be Pantilimon or Minone to go, especially if it frees up wages to try and get somebody else. On paper, this makes sense, because Minone, to be honest, isn't that far behind Pantilimon. Although I do think Pantilimon overall is a better keeper, Pantilimon has as much fault as Minone does, just in different areas of his goalkeeping abilities. But the big one thing that was a big difference was the wages. Pantilimon, I think, was nearly twice as much wages as Minone. So I can understand that logic, and I didn't have a problem with Pantilimon going out, but apparently it was an undisclosed fee, but apparently we didn't get very much, which is disappointing. We should have got at least a couple of million for him, I think. But good luck to you at Watford, mate. I think I'm happy enough with Minone and Pickford for the rest of this season. But in the summer, if we're still in the Championship, keep Minone and Pickford. But if we stay up, need to look at better alternatives. Danny Graham, again another one I feel sorry for. Bless him. He tries his socks off and works incredibly hard, but once again, not good enough. And again, like Mavrias, after this loan spell, his contract expires. So whatever division we're in, that's probably the last we're going to see of Danny Graham. So I wish you all the best, mate. You do deserve it, but just didn't work out for your son because you're not good enough, I'm afraid. It's just the harsh reality of how it goes. Sebastian Coates. This is the most recent acquisition out of all of these players mentioned that's probably going to go. Sporting Lisbon on loan, well, I think it's with a view to a £3 to £4 million move. Again, I might be wrong on the fee, but there's definitely a permanent clause in there, I think. So, if we've got Incone, who already, based on what I'm seeing of him in pictures, and I haven't even seen him play, he looks bigger and stronger than Coates. So, need I say more there? I think Coates, we signed him for £2 million on the basis that he had about 5 or 6 good games last season. I think it was worth signing him just for the price, but you needed a better starting centre-back than that. Two more. Stephen Fletcher. Oh, Fletcher. Okay. Since the first season he came, he looked pretty decent. He looked alright, scored about 11 goals. Fair enough, that's about what you'd expect from that type of money we paid for him. But since then, in 13-14, bar the goal he scored against Newcastle, didn't contribute that much. Well, except against Cardiff as well, but he didn't contribute anything else. Last season, apart from take away the Stoke home and Palace away games, didn't contribute anything. And then this season again, barely contributed very much. We need better standards than that. And Barini and Defoe, and probably to an extent Ndoye, is better than Fletcher. So the only thing I would criticise about Fletcher is that if we were going to get rid of him, we had to bring in another player, because if we were going to get rid of him and not bring anyone else in, and we weren't going to be worse off for wages, I'd have kept Fletcher till the end of the season personally to give us another option up front. And then in the summer, if we do stay up, then let him go on a Boston wherever he wants to go, and then deal with that when it comes. But, you know, we'll have to wait and see. If we were going to get rid of him, we had to bring someone else in. I don't have a problem with Fletcher going, but the lack of a replacement does worry me a bit. And finally, as far as the outgoings are concerned, Jordi Gomez. Really don't rate him whatsoever. I think he can do the odd decent through ball and can take a penalty, but you've got Barini for penalties, and we've got other players who can deliver better deliveries, have better delivery balls than what Gomez does. Championship player at best. Good luck to you at Blackburn, but I don't particularly want to see you back at Sunderland. So there you go. That's all the outgoings. Then the incomings. Jan Kirchhoff from Bayern Munich, 750k. Now, people are going to immediately look at the price tag and say, okay, he's not good enough. Why would Bayern let him go at that price if he's any good? I would respond, why was he at Bayern in the first place if he was so bad? Need I say more? You've got to, and yes, didn't have a good debut against Spurs, but you've got to give him time. You can't judge him on 20 minutes of football, especially against a side like Spurs, who are going to have a lot of the ball, who are competing in the top four, maybe even to some extent for the title this season. Man City went there and lost 4-1, by the way, so there's no shame in losing to Spurs. Damon Doy, Trabzonspor. I'm not sorry, I've butchered that completely. Loan deal to the end of the season, but if I'm correct, there is a permanent clause there if we do stay up. 5-15 last season for Hull. Not a bad return. Probably a better return than Fletcher did, which doesn't really take much. But he still looked alright, even when Hull went down, in my opinion. When he scored against us, he looked quite lively with the KC last season between Hull and Sunderland, which obviously ended in a 1-1 draw. So I'm pretty pleased we've got him, although I would have preferred a better forward than Ndoye. Someone like Remy or Bafétimbi Gomis or Andre Ayew, or I don't know, by Charlie Austin, who you let go for $4 million. I'm still not very happy with that, but I'll get onto that in a minute. Then you had Steve Harper. Now, I'm personally not against Steve Harper as a signing. I know there's a few Newcastle fans I know who aren't particularly happy with it, but he's not going to play, is he? He's really going to be big third choice and sort of mentor, so to speak, for Jordan Pickford. I don't have a problem with that. I think it's decent. Need I say more? Lamine Kone. Now, this guy, if he hits the ground running, could be a very, very good player. But that's the problem. That's the gamble we've got to take in our position. Could be good in the Premier League. We really need Premier League proven players. Even though Newcastle are just above us, they've managed to sign Premier League proven players. Bit disappointed we haven't managed to get one, unless you count Ndoye. Well, Harper to a degree, but you know what I mean? First team Premier League proven players. Coney, from what I've seen in pictures of him, looks a big, tall and lanky centre-back, and that's exactly what we need at the moment. So many games at the back, Sunderland have lacked strength, and if he plays against Man City, that's going to be a hell of a first game, especially the physique of Aguero. I'm very interested to see how that pans out if he starts. But I'm quite happy we've got him, especially after 2 rejected attempts, and now we've finally got him over the line. And the last signing is Wabi Kazri from Bordeaux. Again, if I pronounce it wrong, let me know. He's got potential to do well, but once again, that's the position that we're in, unfortunately. Position we shouldn't really be in it in the first place, but I've already said that about 100 times. So yeah, I think Kazri's got potential. And from what I'm hearing, he's set ball delivery and set piece specialist and through balls and whatnot, and attacking play is great. Can he do it in the Premier League, though? That's the big $1 million question. Or if you like, £1 billion question, so to speak. But anyway, that's the ingoings. I'm quite happy enough with Kazri and Kone, as long as they hit the ground running and prove to be decent players. Anyway, on the whole, how would I rate our transfer window? In some respects, I think this is Sunderland's best transfer window for recent seasons, given the fact that we've managed to get rid of some dead wood at the club who clearly didn't have a plan in Sam Allardyce's teams and who weren't a plan for Sunderland in the future. I am very disappointed with how it ended. I think on deadline day, if you look at Matthew Debussy, could have quite easily gone in for him in my opinion, but we don't know what happened there. Bafétimbi Gomis, Newcastle will link with him. Yes, he's been on a bit of a drought recently, but he can score goals. Should have gone for him. I don't know why we didn't. Like Remy on loan even, that might have been a bit too ambitious, but it was worth a go. And the one that I was annoyed about the most, Charlie Austin. When we spent most of the time chasing Ayew for 10 to 12, 14 million, if you'd got Austin for 4 million, you would have been sorted for forwards, and then I wouldn't have minded if Fletcher had went. There were faults, but Sam Allardyce, I think, has done well enough with what he can, given the situation Sunderland are in and the financial resources of what he's got. I am still annoyed, however, that once again we keep on getting plagued by financial fair play when A, it's not explained properly, and I still stand by that. Journos might not know what it is, but the club or someone like Ellis Short needs to come out and explain what financial fair play involves, because we're rightly going to question it. And two, no other clubs seem to be abiding by it, from what I'm seeing anyway. Look at Newcastle even. Yes, the financial situations are different, but I think I'm in the right to compare these. Newcastle, if you look at Tovan, Cabella and Riviere, over the course of the last season and a half, they've spent about 30 million, arguably, on those three players. And you could argue that they've been flops. I can certainly think that at least Riviere and Tovan have been. I like Cabella as a player personally, but he hasn't done much at Newcastle. So that's £30 million, yet they've been able to go out and spend money, whereas we haven't. And by the way, I think Newcastle's had the best window. I'm not being anti-Newcastle here. They've had the best window, and I think they'll stay up. I hope we go down, and I hope we stay up. We beat, or at least get a point against Newcastle, and they go down. So if we finish 17th, they finish 18th, and we at least get a point against them at St James's, I'd be happy enough. But for this season alone, I wouldn't be happy with that generally, though. I still don't think it'd be a good season, even if we just avoided relegation, but I'd take 17th right now. So I'm still not happy with the state of the club. I still think far too many people high up, and I'm talking higher than the managers here, see the club as a business. And the big thing I would say is, why don't you get Sunderland right on the pitch first as a football team, not as a club, as a team? And then you're going to attract potentially more fans to the Stadium of Light, because you're going to get more people wanting to watch Sunderland when you're in a better position in the league. And two, you're going to attract more business partners because you're in a higher status. Stoke are going to attract better business partners now in commercial aspects. If Sunderland got the on-the-pitch stuff right first and foremost, we could quite easily be where they are. So that's the annoying thing. Don't get me wrong, there's genuinely working people at the club, but I'm talking at the very top level. Ellis Short, stuff like that. Anyway, guys, look, that's my review of the transfer window. Hope you guys enjoyed it at least. And yeah, just Man City's coming up soon, eh? Nothing to worry about. See you guys later.